Welcome everyone to another one of our AiM Sports LearnFast webinars. Doing these monthly now, and working a little harder on finding topics that are topical to the time, and putting those together in ways that are even better for the way that we're doing them. This is our 151st webinar of the series since we started doing these. Lots of you have been watching and commenting, and we appreciate all the feedback. Anything we talk about today, we are recording live, and if we have some questions or something, any questions we have or any links we talk about, will not only go to the live folks, but I'll also put them in the YouTube description down below, so you can click on it and grab it. The presentation is this presentation is available for you to take a look at, and some other things as well, or any links that we may chat about. So today we're going to talk about AiM Sports hardware, and we have done one of these that a little bit of a different focus. Maybe a couple of years ago was one of our webinars with Robbie and Brick and myself, I think. And but this one here, we're going to get into a little bit more detail and a little bit deeper, and talk about hardware by hardware, and how the expansions work and what's available to you. Kind of a great video and great discussion for folks that are number one, either you're searching and you're trying to figure out exactly what fits best for you, or if you have a piece of hardware and that you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what's available to me, and where might I want to go. Our co-host today is Matt Romanowski. He's been here with us at many different times, a webinar co-host. He hasn't been with us for, gosh, maybe 6 months or so, and he's been busy, and we've done some other things with some software and some other things. So I welcome you, Matt. I appreciate you coming and joining us again.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been a long 6 months. I love doing these webinars. I love getting with everyone. So it's really great to be back.
It's great to have somebody that is not only out there on the track running the stuff, but also a dealer and supporting dealers. So he sees the questions that come in, and it's always great to chat with Matt about some of his experiences, and he has helped us drive the direction of this webinar as well. So Matt's been around for quite some time as an AiM dealer, and he does seminars, at track coaching. He's a professional data guy at the track, in the Trans Am series especially, out there doing all sorts of things, and has been working hard, and he's done some things with this trail brake company that where he's setting up some pretty cool tire temperatures, tire pressure sets, body medical type of things, and then helping folks connect them to their AiM devices. So pretty cool, and he's a strong supporter of the products, and people can give him a call and email, and he's always there, and that's much appreciated. So thank you, Matt. And he's racing the yellow 914 there, and has a good time, and it's a rolling test bed for many AiM products, right, Matt?
It is. It's got everything, and it's fun because then I get to come on the webinar, share all the data with everybody, and you can see how the different things play in, whether it's kind of something on the driver, tire temperatures and all those. And then the latest one that we need to update our little model here is to put the little pitot tube on it and show how that one works.
Exactly. So, and Matt, as he mentioned, he shares a lot of his data in the description box below if you're watching this, and you're learning about the AiM software, and you're looking for some good sample data. There is some links down below with from Matt from Lime Rock and Watkins Glen, I believe, where it's a full set of data, shock sensors, throttle, the pitot tube. I don't have that one yet. Maybe Matt will share me some data, and I'll put it up there. But but also with video, so you get a really good Race Studio 3 data file with video that's interconnected. So if you're thinking about, is that important to you, download some of this data from Matt, and you can go in there and see how the video being dynamically linked with the data, and how valuable that is. So look forward to that. Today we're going to talk about the AiM Sports family of hardware. Software is probably going to come in there at some point as well, but AiM has a very wide range of hardware that's available, and we're going to talk about it in some detail as we go. But all the way from GPS lap timers to very complex and very, very powerful PDM hardware, right? So we're going to talk a lot about each one of those. We're going to take some time on either groups of hardware or specific pieces of hardware, and we're just going to talk about where's that kind of fit into the world of users and in the AiM world, and then what can be connected to it, and what does it do, and then what can be connected to it, and how might you be thinking about how you're going to use that when you select an AiM product and what you're going to do with it. So Matt, I'm going to kind of turn it over a little bit to you, but the chat just a little bit about the AiM Sports family as far as the hardware goes along, and then we'll get into individual products and chat about them.
Yeah, like so many great family photos. This one's missing some of the most current items, right? Is how all the family photos go for me. The breadth of what AiM offers is so diverse. From what we see in this photo that we won't talk about, but there's a standalone UTV belt temp gauge. And then it goes all the way to a power distribution module that can completely power and run a car, provide the whole electrical system, the data system, the controls, the display, really everything. And then we have the full ability to do everything in between, from a simple lap timer to a few sensors to a full kit. So as we kind of put all those different items together, it gets kind of complex to know what can go with what, or to know what device has a GPS built into it versus a separate GPS. And I've received a lot of questions recently that people are wondering, can I put this device with this device? So it's a great option to put together a presentation to say this device kind of works in this way and it connects with these. Now, we're not going to cover every single tiny intricacy of the super specialized setups and kind of some of the things you see maybe in my 914, but we're going to cover what's going to work for 99% of people. And then if you get into one of the kind of more nuances of everything, it's a great chance to let us know in a question, shoot us a question, shoot us an email, and we're happy to reach out and help with you to solve whatever that specific need is.
Yeah, it's kind of a catch-22, right? You get a product line, and AiM has worked really hard and put together things that work for so many different areas. Of course, we're in motorsports across the range, right? It certainly road racing and karting is a big part of what we do, and then there's off-road, and there's rally, and there's hydroplanes and different pieces of equipment. You can even focus a piece of equipment to that form of motorsports as well. So, but because of that, then there's complexities, right? There's this works best here, and then this is how we put it all together. So there's all these things that it's great to have a lot of hardware and a lot of diversity there, but it also creates some complexity. So that's what this one's all about. We're going to jump in, we're going to talk about each one and what it can do.
And while we'll keep a lot of things I try to keep it as general as possible, but it brings up a good point that I'll usually say car or automobile, but it applies to motorcycles, to cars, to trucks, drag racers. I have a customer that runs boats, snowmobiles, go-karts, anything that moves. I put, we'll get into it, a Solo, just stick it on my son's bicycle so he can go around the neighborhood and we can get data on those things. So the
mountain bikes,
possibilities, the possibilities are just limitless. So it's really about the device and the sensors and the capabilities, not necessarily the exact application of it. Because what a car does and a boat does, one does it on water, one does it on land. But I've sent Solos up in airplanes. So it's all really neat in how we can use it all.
Yeah, it ends up, it's kind of funny how while a totally different form of motorsports, but in reality, it's all basically doing the same thing with a slight different focus. Even in my own family, we have a drag race car that we have AiM data in. So yeah, there's a lot of different things out there. Let's talk a little bit about the master control devices, right? All of these devices that we're here, and Matt's going to go through those a little bit and talk about what are we looking at, and then what do they control? What do we mean by isolating these out versus some of the accessories?
Yeah, so I tried to put together and group things in a way that makes a little bit of sense to people, and that we can take similar capabilities and group them. So at the top left, we have a Solo2 and a Solo2 DL. And with those two devices, those are kind of the most basic that we offer and that we can use. The Solo2 DL, just giving us a GPS lap timer, pulls everything together. The 2DL adding the ability to connect to the car through an ECU connection or OBD2 connection, which is a really great capability. And then when we add in the MXM, we get to start adding some sensors, and we can add some more modules and a camera and everything else. We get into the logger-based systems that give us even more capability. So more sensors, more AiM expansion devices. And then we get into the line of dashes, and I group the steering wheel, the steering wheel 4 with it, because they have very similar capabilities, and they give us the display, full control over the car. And then the steering wheel 4 really gives us some extra capabilities with the CAN outputs on it, and the switches and the paddle shifts and the clutch control, all those things that we can add into it. And then at the bottom, kind of the most overarching powerful devices that we offer is the PDM, where we can control the vehicle's electronic system, the display, the data collection, and tie all that in together with CAN keypads and add these other things into it that really controls everything. To the top right, I added the SmartyCam family, because the great thing in AiM is this automatic camera system, the SmartyCam. When we put that with everything, it takes all the work off the driver or the data guy, and it puts it automatic in the system. So we have this camera that we can connect to our devices. It turns on automatic, it starts recording, it stops recording, and then it turns off. So all we have to do is put a memory card in it. And then when we take that memory card out, we use it with Race Studio 3 analysis, and we can have integrated video. So that gives us not just our data file, or not just our data or our video, they combine. So we can now look at it and say, maybe why did the driver lift? And we have a video scene to put with it and go, well, there was a car in front of him, he was going off the track, there was a yellow flag, all these things come together. So it's really, really powerful when we start putting these together. And the cameras are off on their side a little bit, because not only are they sort of a device that works as an expansion with the rest of the AiM master products, but they can be their own master product if we use them in the right application, where we hook them with a GPS, and then the SmartyCam GP 2.2 has an ECU bridge. So then we can connect it to straight to a vehicle's ECU, or maybe there's another device in there that we want to connect to. We see that a little bit more currently with the factory race cars that come with their own branded data system that we can tap into and add our video, and now have that great video product. And with Race Studio 3 and the newest generation of cameras, we can get so much data just out of that video file. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, very similar to what we do with all of the Indy cars, with it being a spec camera, right? We're tapping in, and it's really its own master device at that point as well.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing we did not include in here, because we were keeping it, not necessarily specifically did this, but we do have that very important Micron 5, the karting product, and everything we say here holds true to the Micron 5 as well, generally speaking, and we'll fit that in as we kind of roll through. What Matt just did there was an overview of these devices, and then we're going to have an overview of the sensors, and then we're going to go back and we're going to go through each one of these and give a little bit more detail, just so everybody knows kind of where we're heading with this. So, okay, Matt, the next thing, the next slide is to talk about, okay, well, we've got these these data loggers, these dashes, these cameras. And there's things we can expand out to. Maybe every user has a slightly different need, right? And because of that, it's better to have things be expandable and on the AiM CAN network than to have every one of these hardwired in where the cost has to go way up and you may have a whole bunch of things you don't use. So pretty cool that we've used this CAN expansion process. Talk a little bit about what we're seeing here, and of course we're going to talk more about these as we talk about individual gauges, individual systems later.
Yeah, the AiM CAN expansions are so powerful for us because they're super easy to add. AiM has done a really great job in taking all the hard to use details of CAN communications and setup, and there's offsets and multipliers. They took all that away and brought it down to a level that we can really do the parts that we want to do. And if we want to add a sensor, we can use a channel expansion and click a few buttons and tell it what sensor, and it works. We don't have to do all this other programming or coding or anything that's really hard. So I wanted to show pretty much all, or a close set of all the CAN expansions that are available, and it changes because there's more things added and everything else over time. But in the top
this
left
is certainly the most popular ones too, on top of it.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of tried to put them in a way that was what we use the most. So at the top left, we have the Formula Steering Wheel 3 and the GS Dash, typically used with the loggers, but it can go on with the newest dash products. And it's a setup that I run it with an MXP and a GS Dash. The next one that everybody has, a GPS. Some devices have it built in. If it's not built into the base unit, it's one that we can add on with terrific car placement. There's different mounting options for it, whether you want to mount it, stick it on somewhere, if you want to mount it through the roof. And it gives us some really creative ways to mount it. So I've seen it in kit cars and hot rods, where we mount it on the package shelf and we can hide all the wiring for it, or we can mount it in the dash and really kind of disguise what it is up there, make it look really OEM. Like your newest cars have a spot on the dash.
Yeah, we've got all of our, we got the Solos and some of those that it's built into, but all of those products that don't have it built in or connected, full time, it is in the box. We ship everything, comes with one. So it is that important, and we know everybody wants or needs it. So it actually ships with the dash loggers and everything else.
And then we have the data hub, which I always kind of refer to as a power strip. It's a way that we can link many of these devices. It doesn't take any configuration. It just gives us a way to expand how many plugs we have. The next two, as we kind of read it like a book here, is a channel expansion and a TC hub. And you're going to look at them and go, hey, they look the same. And when you take them out of the box, they look all the same. But one allows us to add more sensors, like a pressure sensor, temperature sensor. And the other one lets us add just thermocouples. And it has all the specialized amplifiers and filtering and all the things that go with those thermocouples, but makes it really easy that with the right connector, we can plug in any K-type thermocouple and just have it work.
Yeah, very, very handy. That has, with some systems, that is a real problem, adding thermocouples, and we've made that very, very easy.
Yeah. The next one of my favorite devices is the shift light module. While it, on the basis of it, you go, well, it's just a set of RPM lights. And the picture shows a really neat part of it is that the LED lights are all configurable. We can set them to all these different colors, and we can change the RPM range and everything. But then as a driver, we can use it for predictive lights as well. So we can add our lap timing to it and say, are we ahead or behind on how these laps are going? So a very powerful device that can communicate so much to the driver beyond just a shift light. The other neat part about it is in so many installations, when you get in a car and you get the dash mounted where you can read the majority of the dash, the steering wheel, maybe the rim of it blocks the shift lights on the dash. So it gives this a chance that we can mount it up high or in a spot that's really convenient to the driver. So a neat product. The next one that we see is the memory module. And this gives us a chance that we can add an SD card to any data system that accepts them. And instead of having to plug in or do anything, we can take that SD card out and add it to our computer and download our data from that versus having to use the Wi-Fi or an actual connection to the device. It's a really convenience thing, but the people that need it, or maybe their installs in a way that it's not as easy to get to some of the devices, it's a great way to use.
Or the other huge use of it is endurance racers, right? They put it over on a corner out of the way, and the while tires are being changed and fueling is happening, a data guy can just walk around, open the door, and replace the chip, close it, and walk back away,
right,
and grab the data.
Yeah, and a great part of that too is we offer extension cables that we can plug anything into another device. We have extensions of all different lengths and everything, so you can make your wiring really tidy and get the devices mounted where you need them.
Yep.
The next device that I think is probably the best controller on the market of its kind is the LCU1. Not only is it accurate and it operates your lambda sensor, your oxygen sensor in your exhaust stream very accurately, but it also makes the whole setup and the installation of it, and if you ever have a problem with it, the diagnosis of it, super easy on the user. There's a lot of controllers out there, and they take setup and programming and really trying to figure out how they all work, versus the LCU1 simplifies all that. It makes it easy to connect to the AiM expansion network, and then it handles all the heating things and all these things that go into it, and it just gives you a lambda number or an air fuel number. It gives you if there's an error, and it gives you the temperature and how it works. So if you have a problem, you can diagnose these things. Kind of specialized in, but if you have a car that's carb rated, if you have a go-kart, all these things, it's a device that can make your tuning indispensable.
Absolutely.
The next device we have there is the remote button module. So often a dash can be mounted and the gauge is mounted in a spot that the driver can't reach it. So this gives us a chance to move those buttons to the steering wheel or somewhere else that makes it really easy for the driver to control. The next one that's a popular device, and it's not a pure expansion the way some of the other devices are, but is the backup camera. It gives us a chance with some of the products that we can add a rear view camera to show us with a trigger when we're backing up, and it can display that image on the dash itself. It doesn't get recorded, it doesn't provide any data, but it can make such a difference to a driver when they're backing out of their paddock spot, or they're backing out of the garage, and they can see what's behind them when they're all strapped into the race car. The other one, it's a little bit of a specialized device, is the RPM converter. With the PDMs, it gives us a chance that we can add a PDM to a car that's maybe a little bit older and we need to bring in that RPM input. The last ones that we see there is the Strata logging kit. So one of the products that we offer, and we won't focus on it too much in here because it kind of falls along with the dashes, is the Strata line of dashes, where they're pure displays instead of recording. If you have one of those products and you want to add recording to it, this gives us a chance to add a GPS and the memory module that we can now get recording from it versus just being a display. Sometimes it comes from somebody gets a kit car or builds a hot rod, they put a Stratalogger in it, and as the use of that car starts to change, they go, geez, it'd be really great if I had some data, if I had some logging with it to when I went to the track, when I'm driving it. This gives us a really convenient way to add it. The last of those expansions that we talked about is the SmartyCam line, where we have the SmartyCam 3 Sport, the SmartyCam HD Rev 2.1, and the SmartyCam GP Rev 2.2. These can plug into the AiM devices. They work as an expansion with it. They give us that full data stream that we can display on the cameras, and that we can then bring into analysis and really see everything that's going along. All these products tie into all the AiM masters that we talked about when we're allowed to use them together, and they're easily configured through Race Studio 3 without doing any extra work to put it all together. The hardest thing you ever have to do is enter a serial number, and even that they've made convenient for us, where we can click a button and it gives us the serial number. We can just assign it to something. They've really done a great job making this as easy as possible. And then when you do have trouble, there's great support through the AiM 800 numbers where you can call in, get someone to walk through it, or work through the people that have that you purchased it from, and have them kind of walk you through things. It's a really great system that makes it as easy as possible on those users.
Perfect. So what we've just spent a little bit of time on is going through the devices, and then how they can be expanded, and that was like, if we think of that was kind of a general overview. And the next series of slides, we're going to talk about specific pieces of hardware, and we're going to refer back to these expansions quite a bit. Maybe not by going back to the slide, but we'll be talking about them a lot. So let's go over all the different levels, and maybe it's 6 or 7 different levels of hardware, and we'll chat about each one and say, okay, well, what's the best use of this? Why do people use it? And then what's it do for them, and what expansions are available, what kind of a bigger picture thing, in case people are starting to, look around and try to figure out what they want to grab for their race car. So what we're going to start with is the Solo2. It's the GPS lap timer, right? But it really is so much more, right, Matt? It's such a valuable tool. The price is so good that folks buy them as kind of their entry level product, right?
Yeah, the Solo2 is such a great product. It's one of the ones I refer people to it all the time, because while it's entry level, it provides us with so much that it gets us 80% of the data that maybe we're going to get from a more advanced system, but it gives us a chance to try things out, to grow with it. And then one of my favorite uses is if somebody outgrows it and they want to do something else, you keep it and you lend it to a friend and you share this data with it. I always have one around. I put one in my street car. I put one on my kid's bike. I stick it in a rental car when I go somewhere. I loan it out to people to try things out. They're so powerful and so great to use. It beats any other comparable setup to go out and just try to start using it. And what's really neat about it is the Solo2 DL has a great battery, or the Solo2 has a great battery in it. So it doesn't need to be connected to anything. It has the GPS built in the top, and there's no need to connect it to anything else. If you have a little bit more of a permanent install, or a car that you're going to use it a lot, you can direct wire it or use a cigarette adapter and plug it into the car. But that's the only connection it has. It doesn't work with any other expansions. The real power of it is in its simplicity, that it has the GPS built in, and it gives you that lap timing, it gives you G-forces, but very simple in its whole display, its operation, and how it works.
Of course, the data is downloaded just like every other device that we have. It has Wi-Fi on board. But one of the kind of the even more simple things about it is it can be set up almost fully from the onboard menu. So let's say you went to the track, you don't have a PC with you, you can turn this thing on, go through a couple of settings. It's by default, it's probably going to work right out of the box. Comes loaded with almost all of the tracks that are in North America, here in our region, and turn it on and go, right? And but if you have a computer and you want to download it, you get that power. Matt mentioned 90% of what a lot of people want is speed and longitudinal and lateral G's, and all of that comes from this, right? So very, very powerful tool, as Matt mentions.
And a note that carries through everything we're going to look at today: all the data from any of the AiM devices is comparable to data from any other AiM device. So if you start out with a Solo2 and you moved all the way to a steering wheel or a PDM, that data you collect with the Solo2, it still works against all the other data. So if you have a Solo2, your friend has an MXS, it doesn't matter. It all goes together. What's even cooler about AiM, the data somebody collected from 20 years ago, you can compare to the data you collect today. It all works together. So it's super powerful in that there's no kind of pay to play, or no price that you have to pay to compare to something else. The software is always free. The devices always compare against each other. So it's a great way that you can start out with the Solo2. It's got magnets in it. You can literally just stick it in a car, turn it on, and get data.
I have heard of friends and foes sometimes sticking data loggers on cars. I would never sanction that. I would never say that that's the right thing to do. In the same family of the Solo2, we've got the Solo2 DL. Looks virtually the same, right, from the face, but you'll notice that there's two fittings down here below, and inside there's some substantial differences. Matt, tell us a little bit about the GPS lap timer with the ECU connection.
Yeah, so the Solo2 DL builds upon the Solo2, and it has the same GPS technology, and it's got the same display, but then it adds the ability to connect to the ECU of your vehicle. So if you have a newer vehicle with a CAN connection, or maybe you have one with an OBD2 connection, or you have one with a K-line connection, with a simple cable, you can hook this in and get that data from the ECU. It varies depending on the car or the motorcycle that you're going to put it in, but the data comes across, it stores it in the file along with all this GPS information. One of the things I think makes it even more powerful is now we can connect the Solo2 DL to a SmartyCam. That gives us the opportunity to have that integrated video with the data in Race Studio 3 analysis to really see what the driver's doing and how it all goes together. And if you're driving one of the older cars that we talked about, maybe it's carbureted or you want to put some more data in there, you can connect it to an LCU1 and get that lambda sensor, the oxygen sensor in your car, and tie it all together and get even more data out of this device.
Yeah, it really steps it up with the ECU connection. We talked about the standard Solo getting us 80% of the way there. Boy, when you connect your ECU connection, where you probably are going to have throttle position and you know, maybe even brake pressure and steering, and of course all the engine parameters, and you add that to it and a SmartyCam, you've got a very, very powerful device that is fairly portable and can be and moved around. It's a lot of people run these as their standard device for years. So
yeah, I tell people this device is so powerful. In a newer car, you can have all the data I collect in my 914, that it's a list of channel expansions and everything else. I've got kind of everything AiM offers in this car. And if you take a new car, you can put a Solo2 DL in it and get the same amount of data. It's really incredible how powerful this device is, and the connection, the GPS, and then being able to put on the video. It's an incredible tool for coaches, drivers, and even your casual track day person that wants a little bit more than just the experience. They want to build on what they're doing.
And of course, with all the positives, and there's a ton with the Solo and the Solo DL. The only thing you got to keep in mind as you're thinking of a Solo2 DL is it does not have the ability to add analog channels. Let's say your ECU doesn't give you something, a steering position or a brake pressure. It gives you a brake position or something, whatever it happens to be, and you might want to add that. That's the one area where you got to keep in mind as you get this, is if you want to add things in the future, analog channels, the Solo2 DL is limited in that area. Okay, perfect. So the Solo2 DL, powerful little devices, GPS lap timers we call them, but they really are much more than that. So our next logger is the MXM. We call it the compact data logger. It is again a bit of a standalone. GPS is built into the top of it. A little bit more power than the Solos, with some different things that it does. Talk a little bit about the MXM, Matt, and what it can connect to and where it generally is used the most.
Yeah, the MXM builds upon all that power that we have in the Solo2 DL, but then it gives us the ability to add analog sensors. So we have the ability to add temperature sensors, a pressure sensor. Maybe you want a position like a steering position. It gives us our throttle position. It gives us the ability to add those things. So we can use a data hub. We can add the SmartyCam to it. We can add an LCU1, and then we can have, it has natively 4 channels with it. So that means we can add 4 sensors. And if we want another 4, we can add 1 channel expansion. So it'll take a total of 8 analog channels. And it'll take that shift light module we talked about. So maybe you have a car that the dash area is kind of compact and you mount this MXM to the side a little bit. Well, then you can mount that shift module up in your line of sight where you can see it really well. So very, very powerful in that it has an ECU connection with it, the SmartyCam connection, and then the ability to add the sensors. It's a compact size. It has the GPS built into it, so we don't need to add any other GPS. And what we get out of the box by itself is ready to go if we connect it to a newer car. This device becomes very popular, I think, in two different situations. Maybe somebody who wants just the basic data from an older car. Gives you a chance, you can put in those basic things. You can have your engine temperature, your oil pressure, and monitor those. And then it's really great in the space constricted car. So maybe it's a Formula car, like a Formula V. Maybe it's a Formula Ford. Maybe it's a Spec Miata that you just want to add that little bit more data into. This is such a great way to be able to add it in a compact design with a great display. You get the full color in the background colors. You get 2 alarm lights that you can configure in any color, and you get the shift lights that you can configure for the range and the colors. So it's very powerful in the user interface, but also in how many things we can add to it. And it gives you that great start to put everything together.
MXM, maybe we have some folks that watch this that had maybe an original MXM, and when they first bought it, one of the the cool things that has happened with this model is when we first released it, it did not allow the additional channel expansion, and the AiM technical team went to work and figured out a way to make that happen. And just with a simple firmware update, they changed that and allowed that analog channel expansion. So that's very good. So if you've got a very old one, when they first came out and you've just never updated anything, you have a nice little surprise there for you if you want that. So. Okay, the MXM, a powerful tool. See it in a lot of Spec Miatas, like you say, a great mid-priced data logger, and has worked out for a lot of people. Very, very popular.
Mm-hmm.
The next line of devices we're going to talk about is what we call just the loggers, right? The AiM has had a different line of different loggers. The current ones right now is the Evo 4S and the Evo 5. That's the latest and greatest. We call them powerful and flexible data loggers. It's just that black box theory, right? And where you can put that black box anywhere in the car, run the wiring to where you need it, and then of course all the expansions that are available to it. Matt, talk a little bit about loggers, where they're used a lot, and what kind of expansions are available to users of the loggers.
The loggers are really a neat device because when we get a space constricted install, so maybe it's a Spec Racer Ford, maybe it's a Formula car, we can put these and get the data collection portion of what we want to look at and put it somewhere that's convenient. The other spot that you see these is maybe you have an installation where your series rules don't allow you to use data in a full event, but you want to be able to test and you want to try out what's going on. This is a great device that you can mount it kind of standalone, have it on maybe a plate, and you can put in the car and remove it when the rules say you can't have it. So a great device that you can separate the display portion to the logger and the guts of the operation, the real hardware that's doing everything.
The other area that I find people are very, very happy with this is vintage racers. Vintage racers that want data logging, and it's legal, and they'll put that in the car and put it under the seat, whatever, and then yet the car now looks, there's no display, there's no shift lights, all this stuff, because they want the car to look, period. And then, but yet they're getting this information out of their AiM data systems, and that's pretty a big area of use of these data loggers too.
Great point. You can really hide these, and I've had customers do it in glove boxes, in center consoles, and then sometimes it takes a little more creativity. But in the vintage cars, you can really move it around so you don't see anything. Under seats, I've seen GT40s where it's up under the dash, where you just don't see it, but everything works great. Really a neat way to do that. The big difference to me between the Evo 4S and the Evo 5 is the number of CAN connections. The Evo 4S has one CAN connection, which is typically your ECU. The Evo 5, which is really the evolution of the Evo 4 line, has 2. That gives us the opportunity that maybe if we're dealing in a car that has a ECU and an ABS controller or a tire pressure system or something like that, we can put that on the second cam, versus with the Evo 4S, we're limited to just 1. But that's the big difference. The devices come together in that they both work with data hubs, the LCU1, and an almost unlimited number of channel expansions, TC hubs. They both require GPS 09 that comes with the package in the roof mount or the stick-on ways. Memory modules. And one of the neat things about the Evo 5 that I think is really cool that they did was, in this picture, you can see a little nub at the top of it, and it has a built-in SD card slot. So you can put an SD card in it and download from that SD card versus having to plug in or do anything else. Really neat feature. They both work with the shift light module, but in these devices, it only works as a shift light. It does not have the predictive function. The other displays that they have are the GS dash and the Formula Steering Wheel 3. Depending on how your car's set up, if it's a Formula Ford, some GT cars, the Formula Steering Wheel 3 has a really great feel to it, and it gives you a nice way to display that information depending on how your car looks. And then the GS dash is really neat because it's a little more compact. It has a single kind of curly cord going with it, and you can mount it in a lot of ways. And in dual use cars, I've even seen it where we mount it on a small metal plate, put it with the ram mount. We can suction cup it to the windshield and unplug it when we're not using it. So it's a way you hide the data logger, you put the display up when you want it, you can take it down when you don't, and you still get this great data system.
The couple of other small little things about the loggers, the Evo 5 is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Wi-Fi and cable, and the Evo 4S is cable only as far as the downloading, correct?
Correct.
So keep that in mind as if you're thinking of that Wi-Fi is especially on loggers where you bury them a little bit, to, maybe on the vintage cars where you're trying to hide, maybe that Wi-Fi signal is a pretty cool thing. Although you could connect the cable and take it out to a little panel mount or something hidden away too. That's an important thing. So great, the loggers, very, very powerful. They run on the same engines internally as some of the higher end stuff, but all in a dash, a logger only without the dash. I've get a lot of calls, probably 8 or 10 in the last month or so, from stock car racers. And even though it's legal for where they're trying to run it, they're so used to their standard dashes and the things that they're running that they don't care to have a dash. Sometimes they'll want it, and that's where that GS dash, being able to just plug that in, pop it up there where they want it for some absolute testing that they're doing, where they want the driver to see the lap times or whatever. A great solution.
Yeah, and it's also one I've seen when we talk about different uses. I've seen them in boats, bicycles. It's a popular system. If you want data on a bicycle, it gets put on bicycles. More advanced go-karts, a range of systems, because there's a little box that you can really build into these different spots and use it in a different way.
Perfect. AiM loggers, the data loggers that we have solve a lot of problems for a lot of folks and are a powerful tool. So Matt's mentioned a lot about all the connections and stuff. Very, very very, very practical and a great solution. Now let's talk about the MXL2. It was our first step as AiM into the second generation, right, of the newer hardware. It's what we call a powerful dash logger. It's that black box and the GS dash that we've talked a little bit about with the loggers, but put together, kind of like the MXM's big brother, right? And the MXL2, I'm a little bit old school sometimes. I kind of like that shape of the old MXL and the MXL2. It's kind of cool. The the MXL2 though, when they went from the MXL to the MXL2, of course it got all the memory and the power and all the different things, Wi-Fi, but also the colored lights, the LEDs that are so user definable. It was one of our first products that had that. So Matt, talk a little bit about the MXL2 and where that might be used.
So the MXL2 is the first of the line that it has the power of everything. We can connect any AiM device, almost any AiM device to it. So it has two CAN connections. We can connect it to the ECU and another CAN device. Popular, we see a Bosch ABS system, a tire pressure monitor. Sometimes it's another controller, a gear shift controller. I had one customer and it was a pretty neat application with a boat, and he had CAN-based steering wheel controls, and that went into it. Really a neat way to put everything in. From there, with the CAN connections, we can add LCU1s, an almost unlimited number of channel expansions and TC hubs, a GPS, the memory module, the shift lights, which again, with the MXL2 will only work as the shift lights, and we can add that remote button interface. So if the dash is mounted up somewhere from us, we can then use those buttons on our steering wheel or wherever else we want to mount them to make a trick install. With the remote button interface, one of the really neat spots I've seen people build really tight bezels and kind of integrate the AiM dash into their factory cluster. And then it gives you a chance to remove those buttons so you don't have to try to get in there and do everything.
I see a question that talks about the gearing, the gearing channel. The MXL2, as well as all of the rest of the dash loggers that we're about to see, and the loggers themselves, the black box loggers. We have a couple of choices. That gear position can come from the ECU if it's connected to, and you have that information coming from the car. Or we can do a couple of different calculations. One of them where it's doing its best fit to engine speed and RPM, or another one that most of us like to use, where you plug in the actual gear ratios and the final drive and the tire size, and then it's looking at RPM, speed, and that information, and it gives you a much quicker and a much more accurate gear position. So that gear position on all of our stuff works that same exact way. So the MXL2, while it is we are showing it here, it is with some of the part shortages and some other things, it's not a device you probably are going to be able to buy right now, but there are so many of them out there that and maybe even some new ones on people's shelves that we wanted to include it because it's so popular and there's so many of them out there. We wanted to include it here, but many people are going to go to what we're going to go to next, with the color TFT screens. We're going to talk about those in next. Anything to kind of close that one up, Matt? The MXL2 been a spec logger in some powerful large series, very popular for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our next line that we're going to chat about in some detail is the SW4, the new steering wheel. As we mentioned, we've had a line of steering wheels in the past. Obviously, this is the fourth generation. They've taken it to a new level with the SW4, and they are very cool. A lot of the same stuff we've just talked about. Matt, talk about, you've got 4 pictures there. Talk a little bit about the SW4, some of the power that it has, how the logger part of it works, and then what kind of connections can we connect to?
So the SW4 is such a neat device. Is the part that I always like to start with is when you pick it up and you feel it. It has such a great feel that the grip, the molded grips and how they fit in your hand, the solid feel of the wheel. It starts out before you know anything about it. You just grab it and you go, wow, this is a nice piece. Even to the point you go, wow, this is a nice piece. I don't know what it does, but I like it.
I think I need one.
Right? Yeah. But I keep playing in my head. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
How does one of these fit in my 914?
Yeah, I'm afraid if we still had a car, I would be doing that same thing.
Yeah, the steering wheel 4 is very similar to the MXL2 in some ways, and then drastically different. Is it has the 2 CAN connection. It works with all the data hubs, the LCU1, channel expansions, TC hubs. It comes and it works with the GPS 09. the memory modules. It works with the shift lights and the remote button interface if you needed that somehow. But then it adds some really critical abilities as add-ons with it. It has, and you can see in the pictures, it has the red, green, and blue knobs. Those are CAN-based, non-contact, F1 kind of quality knobs that you can then assign in the outputs and through using them to control, if you have an ECU connection to it, to control like traction maps, ABS maps, all these really kind of specialized things. Or if you have power settings, you can do that. It also has a series of buttons on it that are analog buttons that you can control, say horns or lights or turn signals, if it's a car that has those. So it's got a lot of capability in it in this really small form factor that goes from 270 millimeters for the diameter up to 320. So it covers all that really popular range. So depending on how you sit in your car, you can tailor this so you can get full wheel movement, not hit the sides, and do all those things. If I was a person that had a formula car or an open wheel car, this is the AiM device that I would jump straight to. I think it's so great in those applications. But then I've had customers that use them in GT cars, off-road trucks, and all kinds of things with it too. So it's a really neat device that pulls in all this AiM power with the great ECU connections, and then lets you add all the other devices you want with it.
And you may, pardon me, and you may have mentioned it, but it's the data logger as well, right? It's not just the steering wheel, not just the dash, but a data logger as well.
Full display, full data logger, full CAN communications, everything built into this great little, 270 millimeter or 320 millimeter package. A really, really neat device. Shift lights, everything else on it.
Yeah, very, very, very cool. The as you mentioned, across the board, lots of different people using them in many different forms of motorsports. Could certainly still be used in road racing sedans, right? It all depends on what you want to see and where you want all the controls to be.
Absolutely. And these, one of the other neat features, and it's not a CAN expansion, so I didn't bring it up separate, and maybe I should have made a note. It has the ability to add gear shift paddles on it and clutch paddles.
Yep.
And you can add that to all the different sizes and work with it.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, and kind of the core, one of some of our core products, right, are dash loggers. It's the ones we probably see the most. We group those together here in this piece of the presentation and just called them dash loggers, but we've got the MXS, the MXP, and the MXG that we're showing here. And while they look slightly different, it's really just a display size difference that really what you're after. Internally, they're very, very similar across the board. Talk a little bit about TFT dash loggers for motorsports and what they can do and where they typically fit, and then of course I'd like to finish up a little bit with just a little bit of a discussion of the 1.3 part, right? The 1.0, the 1.2s, and now the 1.3s.
Yeah, so these commonly, you might hear someone refer to them as 1.3 products. We have the 3 different dash loggers. We have an MXS, which is a 5-inch screen. In the middle, we have an MXP, which is a 6-inch screen. And then we have the MXG, which is a 7-inch screen. The small difference in them, they share the same shift light arrays. The difference comes in, to me, is the alarm lights. On the MXS, we have 3 on each side, so for a total of 6. The MXP, which I will say is my personal favorite, the 6-inch screen, has 5 alarm lights only on the right-hand side. The MXG has 4 alarms on each side for a total of 8. The neat part about it, though, they actually share the same alarm capabilities because all those LED lights are fully configurable for light color. So we can still have reds and blues and yellows and greens, all whites, all the colors that you would want in an alarm. And we can have multiple uses for a single button, or we can have them flash 2 or 3 lights for it. So still incredibly powerful in how it pulls them all together. The other neat thing with the dash loggers is they use the full complement of AiM expansions. So we can add the GPS, it comes with them. We can add a data hub to start tying in more things. We can daisy chain these data hubs so you can get more things in there. We can have the LCU1, the TC hub, the memory modules, the remote button interface, the shift lights. And now when we have that shift light, we can use it as not only a shift light, but we can put the predictive timing on it. And it can be different than what the display shows. So maybe you want your shift lights up high where you can see them in the windshield, but you want predictive timing down on the dash. So you can see very easily if it's more green or more red on how you're doing on your lap times, or vice versa, right? You can flip them depending on what you need. You can also add another display. So you can add a GS dash or Formula Wheel 3 to these. So maybe you're a person like me that has an MXP in front of you, and then you want a little bit extra information, you put it on a GS dash over there. And then you want even more information, you stick that SLM up ahead of you. So you can really stack all these things together. The other really neat thing with the 1.3 loggers, as we see here, is they accept the backup camera. So in the back, we have a little plug and we can put 1 or 2 cameras into it with a special cable, and then now get our backup capability. So when we're reversing out of the garage, maybe you're one of the people that has to tow their car backwards, right? You can then have this view out the back without having to turn around or try to see everything displayed right on the screen in front of you.
Virtually like a modern car, right? You put it in reverse, boom, your entire screen is filled with a with your backup camera, right? Just like a modern car. You can back out
Absolutely.
of your stall and not have to have, if you're a guy that goes to the track and you don't have a bunch of help, nobody to back you out, you're all tied in there with your Hans device. Having a backup camera, there's value there.
Absolutely. Or maybe you're building a hot rod or a kit car, and it works on the Dataloggers just the same. You put this dash display in and you get that backup camera. You can have the same capabilities that your brand new, street car that you buy at the dealership. You can add it to your car that you're building at home and have those with a simple camera and connection. Really neat addition to these loggers and everything, and used through a range of OEMs and everything else. So a neat way.
You mentioned the ability.
I was gonna say that works on the 1.2s and the 1.3s.
Perfect. Yep. The camera was an addition to the 0.2s and then the 0.3s.
And then that brings us to like, why is there a 1.0 and a 1.2 and a 1.3? So as the component changes have happened in the industry, AiM has updated all these dashes and changed some of the core processors of them and how they did it. And there's a great webinar that Fabrizio, the main hardware designer, put together, and he detailed these changes in these processors. And you're probably like me, and I can see these. I know it's called a block diagram. I have no idea what any of this means. I know they added extra features, and that's what I like. So when they went to the 1.2, they added the backup camera. And then as some of the industry changes happened and some of the processors disappeared from the market, they adapted to that. And they added even more power to some of these, and we have a 1.3 device. The 1.2s, the 1.3s, functionally for the user, same thing. AiM does their hardware and all the changes in the background, and they handle that part. To me, as a user and as a super user and a provider of these things, it does the same thing to you. It's not something that a user has to worry about, oh, is this a 1.2 or 1.3? It doesn't matter. You can use all the AiM expansions. You can stack them. You can have all these things. That's a really neat one. The one expansion that I missed with these that I wanted to add too was the Rio. So the Rio is a remote input-output module that lets us put other buttons in. So say you have a more complex system where maybe you're doing some power management through it. It gives you a chance to really easily, through that AiM expansion network, add a series of buttons without having to add a whole bunch of analog channels and everything. So with the dash loggers, the Rio can become a little more specialized, but gives us a lot of power in how to add things. One of the spots I really like to use it is, say you're replacing your stock cluster. You can add that Rio and tie in all those alarm lights that were originally on your dash for a brake problem, a check engine light, all those kind of things. You can put them all into this Rio, tie it into the logger, and get a ton of extra display information really easily added to your device.
I can't hardly leave the page though without talking to a little bit of funny here with the MXS, MXP, MXG, right? And Jeff over here in the chat box talks about the naming. Matt, you shared that with me a little bit last night as we were chatting. How do you remember the S, the P, and the G?
I give full credit to Jeff.
Exactly.
I considered the MX Small, the MX Perfect, and the MX Giant. Or I see Jeff put in the comments the Grande.
Grande or Giant. That's the way that a lot of us, we obviously now know them all very well, but as we explain them to people, that we try to share that as well.
Right, and one of the ones I like that Robbie shared with us too up here is he calls it the Micron Extra Perfect. And I really, I love that because with AiM and the Micron line of gauges for go-karts and everything, it's a really great device.
The P is kind of that Goldilocks thing as well, right? That's another way we explain it sometimes.
Yeah, a final note that won't affect, I'd say 99% of people, maybe 99.9. With the 1.3 dashes, they don't have internal thermocouple amplifiers, which is something that there are some users that use that. Not very common at all, because so many people use the AiM PT100 sensors, which go on a regular analog channel. But if you're someone who wants a number of temperatures and use thermocouples to do it, you need the TC hub with the 1.3s versus on a 1.2 or 1.0, it has those built in. It's a more of a rare setup, and I'd say not many people are going to run into that problem, but it is that one little kind of thing to be aware of.
Drag racers typically want a EGT per, or maybe even the Bonneville high speed guys, right? They really want to keep up on that. So it's available to the 1.3 in a very simple expansion way. So
yeah,
perfect. And Matt mentioned as we close this one out, Matt mentioned that he runs an MXP with the GS dash over to the side, with the shift light over to the side, shift light module. I'll tell you what, I see more and more people doing it that way, and they do that not just as testing or wanting more information or whatever, but you put the SmartyCam in the right spot and you got a GS dash and your shift light module, it picks it up better than if you've got your display kind of tucked down underneath a bezel and some other things for the driver to see. That second GS dash really helps, can do some kind of cool things. You can put things you normally wouldn't put on your SmartyCam overlay, and you can still see it in the GS dash, the second GS dash. So
off-road trucks or rally cars where maybe you have a co-driver.
Need a second. Yeah, exactly.
It's a super easy way in the AiM environment to add a second display, put whatever information, because you can have all different information. You can set the shift lights and the alarms totally different. Great way to add a whole bunch of power to a system through one easy cable.
Perfect. So we'll kind of close out the Dataloggers, but that is one of the core products that we have, right? Some of the most popular stuff that we have. We're running a little short on time, but our next one is power distribution modules. Matt talked about it early on, that this is a newer product for us, and it's the high end. We started at the Solos, and then we get to the power distribution modules, right? Matt, we've got a lot of other videos, and we'll link those into the description below, where we introduce the PDM and have a couple of other webinars just about that, including one just 2 ago, I think, when Robbie came on and chatted with us all about PDMs. But talk a little bit about where those fit into the big AiM hardware picture, and stuff that you can do with those.
Yeah, so the PDMs are a really powerful product. They have all of the power functions. So the PDM32 has 32 power outputs. The PDM08 has 8 power outputs. And then they have a full data logger built into them.
Much more than a PDM, as it says there on the top.
Way more than just a PDM, because the PDM32 has 8 analog channels, just like the Dataloggers. And then it has 4 more digital channels that we can add on-off kind of switches, and a ton of extra functionality in how the PDM operates that's covered in some of those videos. The PDM08 has that same power. It has those 8 power outputs, but then it has 6 analog inputs with it. And we can add more and more devices. So it works with all those expansions. So we can put channel expansions on it. We can put the TC hub. We can add the Rio So if you're trying to build in, I've had a lot of people with vintage cars that want to build in all the original switches and the knobs and the controls and the turn stalks and everything. You can use the Rio and tie all those different switches and inputs that the car has into the PDMs to make it power everything. You can put the extra GS dash and the Formula Steering Wheel 3 with it. The one it's not really an AiM expansion, but I wanted to note with it is the PDMs have a 6-inch and a 10-inch display, and those are shown on the right. Those go through a special Rosenberger connection that only works with the PDM. So the 6-inch display is just like an MXP, looks the same size and dimension, used only with the PDM. And then that really neat 10-inch display, that is a PDM only display. So full power of the data logger, full power of a power distribution module, all tied into one device. The only thing with the PDM that it doesn't have that the data loggers have is the Wi-Fi connection. They only connect through a cable, and that's covered in the videos with all the hardware that's built into that beautifully machined aluminum box. There's no way to get those radio waves out of it.
Yeah, exactly. The Jay Let's calls it pretty darn marvelous PDM. So I thought that was pretty good. The it's really the brains and the heart and everything of a car. You build certainly you can add it to something, but it's one of those devices that when you are starting a new build or something, boy, this is a great thing to put in there and build around, and it helps you build a very, very clean car with wiring wise electronics. So okay, PDMs, very, very popular nowadays, and getting more popular every day. And our last topic we're going to talk about, I think, if I have to look a little bit deeper, but SmartyCams. We've talked a lot about them already, but we think of SmartyCams as an add-on or an expansion to our logger systems, and we've had this old original SmartyCam 1, and then we've had the 2s, and now we've come out with the SmartyCam 3 line, the one on the left. It can be its own standalone device too, as well. Matt, talk a little bit about SmartyCams and where they fit into the big picture.
Yeah, so the SmartyCams, we always think of them as slave devices to all these masters that we have in the displays and the loggers and the PDM. Through the micron range of everything, it connects to those. The only device that the SmartyCams won't connect to and work as an expansion is the Solo2. As we talked about, that one has no connections to anything. So if you want to add a camera, Solo2 or further on up the line. But then what's a neat feature of these SmartyCams is we can use them either on their own or coupled to another device sometimes that's not an AiM device. So the SmartyCam 3 Sport, the newest one, you can see it on the left. It'll connect to all the AiM devices, but we can also put it with a GPS and a special data port so we can run it on its own. So maybe you have an installation that you only want video. You could use it for that through this special data hub and the GPS connection. Not a super common thing, but certainly it can be done. A little more common that we see with the SmartyCam GP 2.2, it has an ECU connection. So say you just want video, or you have a car that has a homologated data system in it. Well, now you can use that ECU connection to connect to that homologated system with the GPS and run it as a standalone device. It'll still get power, turn on automatically, record automatically, stop recording automatically, and turn off. All you have to do is remember to put the SD card in it. Really powerful way to do it and to work through. Maybe the most limited one is the SmartyCam 2.1 is that it doesn't have an ECU bridge built in, so it only will connect to an AiM logger. Still super powerful. There are so many SmartyCam HDs out there that are unused. Really great device. It gives you that integrated data and video when you bring everything into Race Studio 3 analysis, as all of these do. So popular device out there a ton. And as the products have evolved and the SmartyCam 3 came out, the SmartyCam HD 2.1 might be the most limited in functionality now that we have the 3 Sport.
Yeah, but all very, very powerful. And the SmartyCam videos that we're getting now even have this, some data embedded into them, which is in Race Studio 3, we can get a little bit more out of that, which is pretty darn handy as well. So SmartyCam 3, we think of them as just that expansion, but they can be run standalone, certainly with all the Micron products as well in the karting world. So it's kind of what this one is. You'll find a lot of those now. We're starting to see more and more of those in the karting world. So. And the final thing we want to show, and we have this available as an image if somebody wants to download it. Matt put together a table that we've talked about many different hardware, loggers and cameras and different things, and what will they connect to. And Matt had that as text. But here's a little chart that Matt put together, and we'll make that available as a link, just a little standalone image for anybody that wants to download it. Talk about this table, Matt, and what it really shows.
Yeah, so I tried to build something to make it a different form for everybody to see. So down the left-hand first column, I have all the AiM devices from the Solo2 down through the PDM, and I included the SmartyCam series, so you can see what's there. And then across the right, I put all the expansions. It gives you a really good opportunity to kind of see, hey, I have a Solo2, what will it connect to? And you can scan across and go, oh, it doesn't connect to anything. So you don't get that surprise later on when you go, well, geez, I wanted a sensor, I wanted a memory module, whatever it might have been. And then the one I added that we didn't really talk about, but it comes up all the time, is in the sensor category. And that gives you a chance that you can look and say, if I want to add a sensor to this, can I? So if you go, I have a Solo2 DL, I want to add a sensor, you can scan across and go, geez, I can't add a sensor. Or if you have an MXP, you can look and go, hey, I can add all these sensors. I put the couple little kind of gotcha notes in there of, with the shift light modules, that it will, the Evo 4S, the Evo 5, and the MXL2, which actually isn't in there, will only work as the RPM lights. It won't work as the predictive. I added the channel expansion notes and the power requirements in some of them. So you kind of get a pretty good chart. It lets you, as a user who's maybe not familiar with it, pull everything together and kind of see how it works. And then if you have more questions, they're going to be a little deeper, and you can give a call in and somebody can help you out to kind of navigate those little complexities because the systems are so encompassing and so powerful now that we have this great simple usability. And then as we get into the deeper ones with a PDM or something like that, we can figure out how we stack these things or use them in the best way.
Perfect. A nice little chart. So, people learn or visualize in different ways, right? We talked about it. We had some text, and now there's a little table that people can glance at and get an idea of what is available to them on the hardware that they own or the hardware they're thinking about purchasing to put in their race cars, in boats and trucks and everything else. Perfect. Thank you very much. Matt, do you have anything else to add before we kind of jump out and start to close up as far as any of the hardware or anything that you've talked about?
No, I think that gives us the big idea of all the automotive products. And I say automotive, maybe it's a boat, Baja racer, a land speed customer, somebody like that can do so many more things. But it gives us a general outline of where everything goes. And then as you get into those more specialized ones, if you have an idea of what you want to do, talk to, me or one of the guys at AiM, bring it up, and we'll see how we can best put everything together. Perfect.
Just like all the rest of these that we've done, and more shorter, more specific videos coming soon, visit our YouTube site, AiM Sports YouTube site. Go on to YouTube and just type in AiM data. The link is up here above. go in there. We have a whole bunch of videos, and we're going to be adding a bunch more on, of course, all of these webinars, plus some more soon. So currently about 216 videos up there. So there's a lot of stuff there. Subscribe to the page so you know when we add some different ones, and take a look at them and let us know what you think. This one here will be up there in within a couple of hours, as fast as I can walk through the process. Customer support, boy, that's what we do here at AiM. We're a customer support company that happens to sell race electronics, we like to say. And we have folks out at the tracks, everywhere as often as we can. We've got a big event happening right now with the SCCA runoffs. We got a couple of folks there, taking care of customers there as well. If you see the folks at the track, say hi, give them a bottle of water. Walking around can be pretty hot. Or give us a call, 800-718-9090. That's our tech line. Just give us a call, and we'll answer any questions that we can for you. We're going to continue these webinars at about the one per month pace. I think that works out well, and we're going to fill in with other shorter videos as well on the YouTube site. Our next webinar, of course, to be determined. We try to cover and see where most of the questions are coming from, and try to cover something. But the next one will be the last Tuesday of each month is what we do. October 25th will be the next one. Hope to see everybody there that's been showing up here. We've been having a great time with these. And so October 25th, we will be back here. I will continue to send out the reminders, not just 1 hour before, but the day before, since we're doing one every 4 weeks or so. So we'll continue to do that. Some contact information for Matt or me. If you want to talk about some specific things we talked about today, there's our contact information, email addresses for both of us. Give us a call, drop us an email, give us a call. You can find Matt at trailbreak.com, and ask any questions that you may have about the different hardware that we talked about. Matt, I think that's about it. We did a great job. We had to kind of thin it down a little bit and still went a little long, but all great. You have anything else you kind of like to add on as we kind of close this one up?
No, I think we covered all the big ones here, and I look forward. Maybe we can get one of these with the Micron line of things and how all those tie together. There's so much power in these systems now. And it always amazes me that we can go from the most simple thing of a Solo2 and just have this device we charge up, we put in the car, to a PDM that is as complex as the newest car you get, and has all these great features. It's pretty amazing to me that we have all these products at our disposal to tie in and work together. It's really fun stuff for me, and I hope this explain things to people and help them see how it all kind of goes together.
Perfect. I appreciate you did a great job as usual. We always like having Matt here joining us as well. So thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it, and I really look forward to seeing everybody the last Tuesday of next month. Talk to you guys soon.